Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks. A podcast that gets a lot of water thrown on it, and then it's okay. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings or Tuesday evenings, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Woo!
I'm your host, Aaron Deister, and he knows how to make a 6 look just like a 2. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
Ahoy!
Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. All he needs to survive is a phone, a Guinness, and the sheet music to rule Britannia. It's Ian Whittington!
Hello there!
Hey, Ian.
Hello.
Glad to have you back. Still in town, hanging out with us. There was a funny moment where Andrew realized that we were in the same room.
It was amazing.
During our pre-show, our members' pre-show.
Wait, are you together?
Yeah, last week I was listening to the show on the podcast, and I don't remember you guys saying you were in the same room.
Right, yeah.
Oh, you may not have done.
Yeah.
But I do remember Ian totally showed me up with a super seductive British intro of Patrons Get Perks. And I was like, man.
Get those perks.
Yes, I was like, man, that's what I need to start doing.
That's right. Learn a little something
Nice.
from the guy from across the pond. Yeah, my favorite part was that the moment you figured it out was when I adjusted the temperature in the room because Ian was hot, and you were trying to figure out how I was adjusting the temperature from across the complete Atlantic Ocean.
In my room.
In Ian's room.
Uh-huh.
That was
So
amazing.
accommodating, Aaron.
It's great.
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Glorious.
Well,
I was like, man, technology's crazy nowadays.
wait till you hear about the cameras I have installed at his place.
Wait, what?
Nothing. I didn't say anything.
It's
I
an
didn't say
American
anything.
thing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah.
little cultural differences. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are excited to do a little more kind of awards reviews. Like both the movies today are kind of awards contenders in acting categories as well as movie categories. And it's good to be able to do that. It's such a crazy end of the year with everything coming out. There will be things that we miss as like a main review. Hopefully we get to them as like buried treasures or those kind of things. But, you know,
Including spending time with a guest that has come all the way from England. Aaron has spent 6 days not here with me.
that's right. Just watching movies
Yep.
and getting flown out to New York by Netflix.
I have been the
and-
man of the house, and I have touched all of his things.
Well,
Yes.
we may need to clarify.
No clarification needed.
Okay, fair enough.
Didn't even tell me he was in town.
I know. I said to Aaron, we should probably tell Andrew, and he's like,
You
nah.
did not. How dare you? How dare you, sir? How dare you come in here, bark at me like some sort of junkyard dog?
Oh my!
Sorry, I got lost in a
You
little
got
bit of
really
Jack Ryan.
wild there.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to do a best ever challenge on Joaquin Phoenix movies since he is in Come On, Come On. Of course, we'll do our Buried Treasure, and then we'll review Belfast and Come On, Come On this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. Start off by reviewing Belfast. Buddy is a young boy on the cusp of adolescence whose life is filled with familial love, childhood hijinks, and a blossoming romance. Yet, with his beloved hometown caught up in increasing turmoil, his family faces a momentous choice. Hope the conflict will pass or leave everything they know behind for a new life. Belfast comes to us from director Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh.
Branagh, if you prefer. Jude Hill plays the child in this. And then you've got Judi Dench, who you know, probably, and Jamie Dornan, who you may know, playing some roles in the family as well. But this is really about Buddy. This is Buddy's story. And Buddy is a stand-in for Kenneth growing up in the Belfast area and what he dealt with. And it's an interesting mix of nostalgia and history and all sorts of stuff. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Ian, kick us off.
Loved it. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah,
I really did.
Andrew, what about you?
I really liked Irish Roma.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Iroma?
Yeah.
Roma? My aroma.
Rome fast.
Exactly.
Aaron.
Yeah, I think I'm going to land firmly in the liked it category for me. Oh, I'm getting a grimace from Ian.
No, Ian's like, you're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Every once in a while,
I'm allowed to be wrong. So let's talk about it a little more. Obviously, Ian, you adore this movie, so why don't you kick us off? What are some things you like about it?
So I've never actually been to. You've given me a complex about how I say Ireland.
I'm so sorry.
Say that again?
No. So I've always said Ireland. But he's like, so what island is that? I was like, no, so Ireland. But he's like, put some extra syllables in it.
That's right. Say Ireland.
Ireland.
So you say island.
Just Ireland, yeah.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
Or I say it really quickly so no one notices. So I've never actually been to Ireland. My first trip will be to Dublin in 2 weeks, which will be really fun.
Oh, nice.
You can't wait for that. Seeing some friends over there. But these streets seem so familiar because, I mean, it's basically the same as England. They'll hate me saying that, but geographically and stylistically, it looks the same. So
Black and white.
Yeah, black and white. We're all black and white. There was lots of tea being drunk, which made me feel very much at home. But it just seemed really, really familiar, and it's a period of time that we're taught about in school quite a bit, the Troubles. And it's probably one of the things that can be blamed on England as well. We definitely had a hand in causing a lot of this. But it's just a really, really sweet look at a period of history that I'm really familiar with. And I think it was just done really, really. I think it was a good balance of nostalgia and, like you said, history. And I know it's pulling from his real experiences, but just how a lot of the relationships are portrayed and the difficulty of having a job in a different country, maintaining a family, making those difficult decisions for your children and what's best for them. Do you want them to grow up the way that you did, or do you want them to be safe?
Right.
Which one is it? And balancing culture with doing something new and maybe letting go of a bit of that. So yeah, I loved it.
I wondered how much of it was the geographical thing too, and just culturally, it's definitely something that you're going to be a lot closer to than we are. However, I think any of us can identify with ideas of social unrest and those kind of things. Although in this case, it's more severe than that, right?
Oh,
this was a religious war,
it's
right?
It's a blood feud.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
What about you, Andrew? What are some of your thoughts?
Well, this is just going to show my ignorance of it all. It does take place, as we said, in Belfast, Ireland. Obviously, I thought that the antagonistic group that they were, confronting was the IRA, but it's not. They were, I guess, it's called the Troubles, which was a Catholic, Roman Catholics versus Protestant, mindset, which I thought was really interesting. I had to get that out of the way before I gushed out all over the good things about this movie. What I love about this movie is how intimate it is. It's a very intimate and personal movie, and you can tell that this comes from a place of familiarity from Kenneth Branagh. This must look exactly like the street that he grew up on. I love how everybody knew the neighbors, and it was just a communal family, like what you see in like cities like New York and bigger cities where where a giant conglomerate of people all cram packed together kind of form a tribe of in some sense. So that was really that's one of those great things that you don't see a lot in movies, and it only happens whenever you can definitely tell that a movie was made with love and care and memories. Another thing, Buddy the kid is just, I forget, what'd you say the name of the actor was again?
Jude Hill.
Oh, so good. Good. Yeah. The adorableness meter was off the charts.
So he sent, they do award stuff, and they'll send you like books or that kind of stuff. They sent a package of Belfast stuff, and it included a handwritten letter from Jude Hill.
No way.
Just was the most adorable little thing.
Sweet.
He was just like, "Thank you for watching my movie. I really had fun."
So good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And a chocolate bar from England that ruined Aaron. It destroyed him.
So they have a chocolate bar over there. You'll have to remind me of that. It's like Crunchy or something.
It's called Crunchy, yeah.
Did I get it right? It's actually
Crunchy
just
bar.
called
Yeah,
Crunchy
that's
Bar.
it.
So it's called a Crunchy Bar, and it's basically just like straight sugar honeycomb surrounded by chocolate. And it was so sweet. I've never had candy that sweet before in my life.
And like he passed it to me before. I was like, "Do you want some?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm just gonna let you have this one."
So anyhow, so that came along with the handwritten letter from Jude Hill. But I just mentioned that because he is adorable, and he's adorable in this movie, and
so sweet.
Yeah.
The relationship between Buddy and his grandparents, which is Judi Dench and Kieran Hines, is like so amazing. It's such a positive, the world is your oyster kind of a thing, and the joy that he gets from them, but also that they get from him. That give of love is just so infectious. You feel it come through the screen. And also the relationship between Judi Dench and Kieran Hines, just that I've been married to you for 1,000 years, and I get tired of your crap, but I still love you more than life itself is one of those just adorable relationships. And it's one that you can kind of possibly see Jamie Dornan and is it Catriona?
I believe so.
Yeah. That they would grow up to be that couple, that they would grow up eventually to be Granny and Pop.
Yeah.
So good.
It is interesting, too, that the official character names for these characters are Ma, Pa, Granny, and Pop. And
from the point of view of Benny.
All from Kenneth's point of view. And I think the movie sings because of it. You mentioned Roma, which I will re-mention again when I talk about one of my negatives. But I did want to say the other movie that came to mind was Life is Beautiful. And it is one of the things I love about this movie that you guys haven't mentioned yet, is that it takes a really traumatic thing and yet somehow makes it feel beautiful and nostalgic and all the little cute, kid romance or, whatever you want to call it, friendship that he has with this little girl. And all that stuff is so adorable. And the conversations he's having with the older kid in town. Yeah. That's not his sister, right?
No.
Okay. I think it was a cousin.
School.
Yeah, a cousin or a neighbor or something. Yeah. Those conversations about
brother,
those conversations about how to appear to be Protestant or Catholic.
I love that
were
so much.
So fun.
Yeah. I was like, well, what's the difference? And how do you know one? Oh, it's their name. I was like, well, William, that's definitely Protestant. Yeah, but we know he's Catholic.
Yeah.
And it's just how ridiculous all of those delineations and all of those the things that separate people, how ridiculous they are from a child's eyes. And it reminds us that as adults, we should probably remember how ridiculous it is as well.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, it's all really, really good, and I loved that stuff. And you guys already mentioned a lot of the other stuff that I really liked and put it firmly in the camp, including the performances, including how cute Jude Hill is, including the beautiful relationship between Granny and Pop.
Didn't Judi Dench is quite hard to recognize until
She's great.
you know it's her.
I thought it was June Squibb for a minute.
No, I can forgive you for making that mistake. It's a really interesting makeup job, right? Costuming job would probably be the better way to say it. But no, she's absolutely great in it. I can shift into what I was talking about with Roma. There is something about this movie that occasionally feels a little bit light to me. And I don't know if that's a me thing or what or what I wanted the movie to do. But I got to the end of it and I was just like, oh, that was nice. You know, it was just like, oh, that's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, man. Like it was, it was good. And I think I wanted it to be more. And so when I think of like Roma, I think of, how deep the themes were and those kind of things. And there's and there is also the element of the black and white, where it was just like, I get what we're doing with it here. It makes there is an attempt to show the beauty of art through how color is used in this movie. But at the same time, I just kind of wanted the whole thing to be in color and use something else.
Yeah, as a rule, I agree. I don't like the black and white thing, and
it won't be the last black and white movie we talk about today. So yeah,
but it kind of really worked for me in this film because of the time in which it's set. It kind of gives it a nice little texture to it and puts you firmly in the past. And I think it's worth it for seeing cinema and even the stage play in color, and just how that is that's Benny's way of escaping and capturing his imagination. That was beautiful.
My one thing about the black and white color thing is that I didn't understand the intention behind certain elements being in color. I'll say, like there are shots in this movie that are in full color, and honestly, for a minute, I thought I was in the wrong theater because the movie starts out in color, but then it goes to black and white, and then there are times like when they go to the movies and the movie is in color. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe it's just like we're supposed to see everything that Buddy, like as a child, is black and white. It's a memory, but there are some elements like seeing a movie, is in full color. Oh, and by the way, whenever Catriona like smacks Jamie Dornan for going to see the Raquel Welch caveman movie, I love that.
Yeah.
But it does bring up something that I want to talk about, is how the way this movie is shot. And what I thought was incredible is that Kenneth Branagh is, like we said in the pre-show, known for doing a lot of Dutch angles and stuff, which I don't remember there being a crazy amount, if really any, Dutch angles in this movie. But what I thought was so great is that, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, whatever movie they went and saw, like in the theater, the preceding shots would be shot in the same style. Like they went and saw a Western, and then after that there's a scene where Jamie Dornan is like doing a standoff in his front porch with these guys, and it feels very much like a Western. And I thought that was such an interesting way to change the stylization while still all being in black and white. But for a minute there, I'm like, am I watching an Irish Western? I'm okay with this. It's weird, but I'm here for it.
There's definitely some
I
elements
think
of that, like get out of my town and you don't belong here and don't show your face again.
Yeah, exactly. And it very
not
much
room enough for the both of us in this town.
By the way, that's a really good Western. You guys need to go check it out. I thought that it really is like Kenneth Branagh is stretching his creative muscles with this one because it is so personal to him. So he wants to put his best foot forward. So congrats, man. He did a great job here. A great job.
I agree. I 100% agree. I just, The thing I have with this is, and you're right about how the movie echoes the entertainment that's seen. You're right about when color is used, it has to do with creativity and art. And I think what we're supposed to be learning from all of this is what activated Kenneth Branagh as a child, right? Like, you know, we're all from his perspective. We're all from kind of him experiencing this world. And we are supposed to be gathering a glimpse, a window into why he's a movie director, right? Because these are the things that he saw in color. These are the things that, you know, really impacted him. And when he had seen a Western, all of a sudden he saw what his dad did as being like a good guy in a Western. Like that's how movies impacted him, right? All that stuff is here. And I think it's very beautiful. In fact, I kind of wish it was more like the real driving central theme of the movie instead of the, you know, the trauma stuff, instead of the, you know, the actual stuff that was going on with why they had to move and stuff. I almost wish that was a little more background, because I think when it tries to go deeper into that stuff, it loses a little bit of all the beautiful child, you know, like stuff. There are things the movie wants us to understand that I don't know if we're going to stick in Kenneth Branagh's perspective as a child that he would understand that way. Yeah. And so it kind of occasionally for me felt a little bit like we were moving in and out of two different movies. It wasn't distracting. It wasn't bad. I still really liked it, but I almost kind of, you know, wanted it to be more centralized on either, you know, just the nostalgia. In fact, that's what I would have preferred. Yeah. Or really getting into the nitty gritty of the
thematically, it makes it a bit messy, doesn't it? Jumping from
just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit.
Well, I think what the intention, is that he's seeing certain elements, you know, as the Western or as, you know, the action movie, but then reality hits, and I think that that's what those moments are, where it feels very jarring, and it goes back to those. You know, with the gangs and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, this isn't a movie anymore. This is real life. Yeah. And you know, the scenes at the very end of this movie are very gripping, because you see a kid who doesn't understand what's going on or why he's in the middle of this. Yeah, I like that.
Any final thoughts? Anybody have one last thing?
No post-credit scene.
No, yeah, my last thing, we kind of touched on it earlier, is just how, even though it's dealing with the big thing, it's how disciplined and small the story is. It really does focus on the one family, the personal troubles that they're going through, and I think the ambition could be to make it too big and too sweeping and lose sight of what it's trying to go for. So I actually kind of like that it wasn't as punchy as Roma, wasn't as deep and heavy, because I could happily go back and watch this tonight. I like Roma, but I don't think I could go back and watch it every single night.
You're absolutely right. No, I 100% agree. In fact, my one last thing is similar, in that in a year of, and this is not out of the ordinary, but awards contenders that are 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Belfast is 90 minutes long.
We didn't even talk about
90 minutes long.
90 minutes is glorious. So good.
And it's just a nice little sweet crunchy bar of a movie.
Yeah, condensed.
There you go. That is Belfast. It is playing in many different theaters. You'll have to check your local listings to see if it's showing near you. All right, let's move on to Come On, Come On. A documentary filmmaker whose latest project involves gifted children bonds with his smart yet sensitive nephew, whose father struggles with bipolar disorder and is in the grips of a manic episode. Come On, Come On stars Jaoquin Phoenix in the lead role. Scoot McNairy, by the way, playing the father, who's mostly in the background of this movie. Mike Mills directed it. What do you guys think of Come On, Come On? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, kick us off this time.
Low side of liked it.
Okay. Ian, what do you got?
High side of liked it. Nearly come back to me next year. But yeah, high side of liked it.
Good week for you. You're loving these movies.
I am.
I'm leaning more with Andrew on this one. I'm actually battling the high side of just okay, is I think where I'm going to land on this. Yeah, I'm going to go with high side of just okay. And we'll talk about the reasons as we get into it more. But once again, Ian, you liked it the most. So tell us about your
I think Ian's just saying that he loves these movies just so he gets
so he can go
talk
first.
I just like to go first so I can dictate anything. Yeah, like the good Brit that I am, you must all follow me.
Yes.
Impose my will upon you all.
Exactly.
I loved it. I am such a sucker for Joaquin Phoenix. He, in my eyes, can do no wrong. I will watch him read the script to Belfast and play every part, and I'd have a very happy afternoon.
I'll watch that. That sounds great.
He's
That does sound pretty
fantastic.
cool.
He, especially when he plays an anxiety-driven role and stuff along those lines, and that might be why this is another film that I related to a lot, like Belfast. Like Belfast, geographically related to, I thematically related to. Come on, a lot. Yeah, I love how quirky it was. To begin with, like the first 10 minutes where he's just talking into the mic and he's kind of repeating over and over again, and he's talking to kids and doing interviews. I was like, where are we going with this? But the more it stuck with that, and the more it overlaid all of that, the more it kind of hit me, and just the more I enjoyed it. And the kid in this, equally great week for child actors. He's so good. He is frustratingly adorable, and just you want him to shut up and never see him again, but at the same time you just want to look after him as well, and just
Woody Norman
sit down and listen.
Is the actor's name. Woody Norman.
He's great.
Plays Jesse.
Absolutely great.
Yeah.
Don't understand why it's in black and white. That really wound me up, as we mentioned. Well, me and Aaron watched this together, and we several times said, wouldn't that scene be great in color?
Yeah. That is the thing with the black and white here. It really is one of my bigger negatives, and I don't mean to go into the negatives so soon, but since you mention it.
It's pretentious art house.
It really is. It's okay. Do what you're going to do. I know cinematographers love it for some reason. They think it adds some texture, and they're probably right in some way. Yeah. I just know for me personally, I just go, man, how beautiful would that have shot have been with the entire rainbow of colors that we exist with every day? It's like, it just strips an interesting tool from the tool belt. And if you're going to take that tool away, it better be for me, better be for a good reason. And I just couldn't find the reason.
It's almost like, well, we're going to have less to deal with, and we have less to worry about if we put it in black and white. We can just focus on the story.
Yeah.
Kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Because the big, and obviously I'm talking about a negative here, but the big thing in this movie is that it's a journey of these two going on a trip around the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, so, and not only it's them, but you actually have Joaquin Phoenix interviewing kids who live in different parts of the country. So it's a shame that you don't get to see the vibrancy of these areas. You don't get to see the bright sunniness of the West Coast. You don't get to see the chilling cold air and the red brick of New York City. And you don't get to see the vibrant colors of New Orleans. You know, you don't get to see all of that.
Yeah, that parade. Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a parade in New Orleans, and it's in black and white.
I believe you mean, come on.
Come on.
Come on. Show me some color. Come on. Here's why this movie is a little bit higher for me, and maybe this is why I have it higher than Aaron, because I found a lot of what this movie is talking about to be relatable. And I think that that's going to be the thing that really sets this movie apart. If you're not into art house, you know, kind of cliche art house movies, then the thing that might draw you in is a sense of like, oh, this film is speaking to me, you know, like growing up with bipolar disorder, growing up with an adult that has bipolar disorder, you know, I'm like, oh, I get that. Or, you know, the way some characters, like the relationship with one parent versus another, you know, I'm like, oh, I get that. So having those things to latch onto, this movie did a really good job of making me think about my own life. But that could also be a negative, because if all the movie is doing is making me think about my own life, I'm not really thinking about the movie. So I'm not really focusing on performances. I'm not focusing on, you know, set design or anything like that. I'm focusing on myself, and it becomes very, you know, introspective, which is fine. A movie can do that, but I also want to appreciate the thing that I'm watching. I think that everybody's performance, including the young kid in this movie, everybody's fine. I don't think that anybody's giving a career performance in this movie. It's just, if it wasn't for that sense of familiarity, I would probably be right where Aaron is, maybe even a little lower, because an art house film that doesn't have much to say beyond what I can relate to is pretty boring. And I'm afraid that could be the case with some people going to see this movie. Just like, what is this?
I'm certain some people will have that experience with this. I mean, obviously every movie has something to say, but different people connect to different things that are being said. For me, really the only thing that connected me to the movie and keeps me from, even like the didn't liked it category is I really bought into the relationships. Like I really bought into how Jesse was teaching Johnny things, like in vice versa. And, it felt really authentic to me. That relationship felt like an uncle, nephew, an uncle who doesn't have kids, who's trying to figure it out, who doesn't realize you never turn away from a child in a busy
oh my goodness
situation. Wow. Yeah, so like I bought it. I really bought the relationship, and I think that's the main reason I connected to it enough to say it was okay, even high side of okay. But other than that, there's really not much here for me. I just I think it's pretentious. Pretentious is such a loaded word and can sound very judgmental. But what I mean by it is that there is art being artified here.
Yeah,
it's
forced art
that feels to me as if it is unnecessary for what the movie is trying to do or say.
Totally get it. Yeah.
Beyond the black and white choice, there's a lot of narration in this movie, and it's couched in a way that doesn't make it like narration. It's actually a podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
Great year for podcasts and movies. Joaquin Phoenix original character name was Podcast, but then they found out Ghostbusters Afterlife
stole it.
They had to change it. But yeah, there is this ongoing narration of let me tell you how I'm feeling. Yeah. And even the kid does it a couple of times.
It's a little bit preachy.
It is a little bit much.
This is what the world should be like. So I kind of would have been quite happy to cut out. I don't care what his job is going to be. Just cut out the interviews.
Well, I'm fine with listening to that podcast. Yeah, you understand the difference? Like,
I don't need it.
I would love to hear what adolescents have to say about what they think the future is going to be like. And I like those moments in the movie. I like the actual audio that I'm hearing, but I'd rather just listen to that podcast than have that be 60% of a movie that is trying to tell me something about growth in relationships and expanding yourself.
It's so many different messages. Like this isn't a film about saving the future and making the world a better place. This is about relationships and anxiety. So it took up so much of the movie and just slammed the brakes on when it felt like we were building momentum.
Right. Yeah.
Also, this is, again, personal, but it's also what I thought was funny. If you grow up in a house where let's just say, you were to walk off in a store or something, and the parent finally caught you or found you or something, and they yelled at you. The idea of them apologizing to you for yelling at you in a store is unheard of.
It's not unheard of, but
I'm saying if you grew up in a house where that's what I'm saying is like, okay, so there's some parental. I may not be a parent, but I remember being a kid, and I remember having parental judgment thrown down upon me with a mighty hammer. And I don't remember this kind of sympathetic. Let me try and understand you. You need to listen to what I'm telling you right now, or the world will murder you. That's the kind of parental upbringing I'm familiar with. And so whenever I see this, I'm like, is that really how people try and raise their kids? It's interesting. I don't see how that would work. Where's the fear? Where's the terror? Why are you trying to scare this child into submissiveness?
Yeah, I will say that is probably the kind of parent I often am, is the I'm sorry for yelling at you parent. It is definitely at my core to be like, but that's the kind of person I am. I take a lot of blame even when it's not mine.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, you went across the pond just to turn down the temperature in Ian's
I'm
right.
sorry,
house.
the
That's
office
right.
that I've invited you into is too warm and not to your liking.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So anyhow, yeah, I do identify with that a little bit, but you're not wrong. There is definitely an element of parenting that is, I think, even the best of us, have those fine, go get hit by a car moments.
That'll learn you.
Yeah, that is,
You'll only do that once.
okay, fine. Hey, go get bit by that snake. We'll see how you feel afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or hey, take that fork and plug it into that light socket. Yeah, I bet you won't do that again.
Well, just remember.
I'm
to
not
draw
saying
the
that's
snake.
personal. I'm not saying that's a
No.
personal memory or
Sure.
anything.
Yeah,
Sure.
Just remember to draw the snake so that we can tell what type it is and we can get the anti-venom.
That's right.
For
We get
it.
the correct antivenom. Yes, exactly. Any other thoughts on Come On? Any?
Loads. I could do this for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. What else you got? Let's go for it.
Yeah, man.
I
what we're
loved the switch from dealing with oh good lord, his name is not Johnny. It is Johnny. Johnny and his sister, how they deal with their mother, and he is indulging her in the fantasy, and she's like, "What are you doing? This is so damaging." And then the switch to indulging her son's fantasy, and Johnny doing the opposite and saying, "This is nonsense. He's not an orphan." I was like, that is. For me, that was so good how they went to polar opposites, and eventually it's so beautiful when Johnny comes round to the novelty of having a day with the kid compared to having him for like a month where it's just like, screw it, you're an orphan. Like this, I just need you to go to bed.
Right. Yeah.
Let's play the orphan game.
Let's play the orphan game.
How
I guess.
quickly your not your standards, but your tolerance slips when you're just berated constantly by
right,
an
like
annoying
when you've
tooth
only
and
known
nightmare.
like a friend from England over Zooms, and then you invite them into
have to
your
live with
home,
them for
and
3
they
weeks.
And they walk
complain
around
about the
naked
temperature.
and the host just walks into your bedroom at 6 a.m.
That has
asking
happened.
for the van keys.
Yes, yeah. That seems to come from a very personal place,
That
Ian.
was very specific.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I just imagined you guys in a New Orleans jazz funeral or kind of like a parade, and Ian is riding on Aaron's back.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Faster.
Andrew, do you have one last thing? Any other things you want to talk about?
I mean, there's more interviews with kids during the credits, but
Right. Really quickly on that. The completionist in me, because I'm right with Aaron, I had to listen to every damn interview, so it worked. I watched all of the credits because I had to listen to all of it, just in case I missed something important, which I did not.
So there you go. You don't need to stay through all those interviews.
Nope.
Yeah, download the podcast later.
Yeah.
Kids. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to mention about this. I could cede my one last thing to the gentleman from England if he has another thing that he wants to talk about.
The last that it's how the conversation they have where Johnny's like, "You're not going to remember any of this," and he's just like, "What do you mean? Of course I'm going to remember it." I was like, "No, you won't. Like, you'll remember bits of it." And like when you're 18, when you're 19, this will be a fun memory. You might remember something you ate, but the stuff right now that is really important that's happening, you're not going to remember it. And I was like, damn you, movie, you are right. And I hate it because there are things in our lives that we will not remember unless we get a reminiscence machine,
Right.
which is dangerous because then you just get lost living in the good memories instead of actually living your life.
Yeah. And then
so-
New York floods, and then
That's
I
it. And
understand.
then Hugh Jackman rips his shirt off and does something ridiculous.
I mean, that's the good part.
That's
But
the,
yeah,
that's the great part.
we talk. That's the thing I'm going to reminisce about. You know.
Yeah, that's it. That's the memory you revisit. But yeah, it was just But then I also morbidly like being reminded about that stuff. It kind of helps you live in the moment a bit more. So yeah, that themes. I liked the themes in this movie.
there's just a lot of them.
Yeah,
It's
you're
trying to
right.
do a lot.
There is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there you go. That's Come On. It is also playing in theaters, so check and see if it's playing near you. Before we head on to the Best Ever Challenge, just a thank you to our Sif Pop members. Thank you for supporting Sif Pop, the website. Thanks you. The podcast thanks you. I thank you. My mother thanks you. My father thanks you. I don't know what's happening here, but you are very much loved and thanked for your support of Sif Pop. It really does mean the world to us. We could not do all the things we do without that. So it is much appreciated. If you are interested in seeing what that's like and what some of the perks are to doing that that we talk about, you can just check it out at Patreon. Patreon.com/SiftPop. Support starts at $3 a month, and then there's different perks at different levels. This month, the member hangout that we do monthly is usually for a certain level. We're opening up to everybody as a Christmas present. So that'll be available to all SiftPop members. A live Q&A that will be happening this month. So yeah, check that out at patreon.com/SiftPop. All right, let's move into the Best Ever Challenge. We're going to do Best Ever Joaquin Phoenix movies. He's been in some stuff.
One or two things.
We'll go from number 5 to number 1. Of course, you can trump if you've got it higher than somebody else.
Aaron, you go first.
I will do so. My number 5 is Walk the Line.
Trump.
Oh, all right. Ian's going to trump Walk the Line. Yeah. Very nice. I guess, Ian, that means you can go next.
I'm desperately trying to change the rules of the BEC here. I really am.
You know, this is an ongoing thing with you. It's like, I'm going to come into your podcast and tell you how it should go.
But until you get it right, then
it's the British invasion.
Keep doing it.
It is.
Right. So this isn't the best film this isn't the 5th best film he's been in, but I really like him in it. You Were Never Really Here, which has one of the most frustratingly vague titles. Because whenever I had to Google it to remember what the film was, I was like, you were over there, or something happened.
You were over there.
I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah. I really like. It's another kind of anxiety-riddled performance. It's a weird one. It's closer to the Joker than it is to Come On. But some part of my brain really enjoyed that. Don't know that I ever want to watch it again, but it had an impact.
Yeah, it's interesting. He has several movies with titles like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not here. You were never really here.
Yeah.
Who's
Don't
here
go
tomorrow? Yeah.
Whose line is it anyway?
Yes, exactly.
Little did you know, Joaquin Phoenix is actually just Wayne Brady, in his greatest performance of all time.
That's true. That would be something else. That would be something
you guys
else.
that joke did not land for you guys.
I'm probably missing some context.
I'm a big Wayne Brady fan, so I'll allow it. Andrew, what do you have at number 5 using the correct BEC rules?
I am using the correct BEC rules.
Refuses to. It's the whole. Listen, Ian, it's the whole angle of the BEC. That's like the whole twist is that it's not actually about the best Joaquin Phoenix performances. It's about the best movies.
What a dumb twist. Easy there, Shyamalan, just because you have to have something in it.
Hey, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not talking about Shyamalan.
Yeah, we're not too Shyamalan yet.
Okay.
No, not yet. Andrew, what do you got at number 5?
The Master.
Yeah, good choice. This is one I definitely need to rewatch. I have it in my honorable mentions, but I need to rewatch this because I've kind of fallen in love with PTA recently more than I ever have, and I
wonder why. I wonder if you think that his next new movie is any good.
Well, we will find out possibly.
Yeah, next week.
Possibly next week. Yeah, but there's this interesting thing where I will never, I don't think ever come around on Inherent Vice. I think that movie is an absolute mess.
It's so
a terrible
bad.
film. But The Master, I think I might see some things I didn't see the first time if I watch it again. But go ahead, Andrew, talk about the Master.
Well, it's obviously it's the L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology kind of story. They don't explicitly say it, but we know what it is really talking about here. This is a masterclass in performance movie. It's everybody given the best performance that they can possibly give. Philip Seymour Hoffman is stellar in this. Joaquin Phoenix is transformative. The scene with them interviewing each other, or where Philip Seymour Hoffman is interviewing Joaquin Phoenix in the hull of that ship, and he's asking him those questions and he's not allowed to blink, is one of the most compelling and anxiety inducing, and they're just talking. And he's just asking him, spitfire questions, and he's like, "Ooh, I am so infatuated with what is going on."
Yeah.
And the relationship this poisonous relationship that develops between Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman is stellar. Yeah, I think it's one movie where I could see some people calling this pretentious art house, but I think that there's a level of performance given off by all the actors there's more than enough for somebody to chew on here.
Yeah, good call. The Master, and at number 5. I think that brings it back to me. For my number 4, this is where I get into the Shyamalan a little bit, because I like The Village more than most people. So I have The Village at number 4. I don't expect a lot of people to jump on board this train, but I have rewatched it even within the last couple of years, and man, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie. I really do think, and I will sound like a broken record every time I talk about this, I really do think this is a movie more maligned for a predictive twist than it is for actually being a bad movie.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
A lot of people figured out the twist before the movie, and to them that meant it must not be good. And I highly recommend you go ahead and there's actually 2 twists. I mean, there's several story turns, but there's 2 kind of major story turns in this movie. Feel free to read about them. Feel free to spoil yourself and then go watch and for the craft of the film and the story that it's telling.
I need to rewatch it.
But yeah, I do. I really dig The Village. So that is my number 4. Ian, what is your number 4?
This is where I have Walk the Line.
Well, let's talk about it then.
Yeah. I really like it.
Moving on.
Moving on. I watched this, I think it was the year it came out, so 2008 or 7, something around that kind of time, and didn't know anything about Johnny Cash, being like a 17, 18-year-old Englishman. So just, I obviously knew the name, but just watched it because I think a friend was super into Johnny Cash, and now they talked the whole way through saying, "Well, I don't think that happened, and that's not right." Regardless, as the worst. Regardless, I really, really enjoyed it, and it was one of the first kind of love stories in a film that I appreciated, because even as I was a teenager, I was fed up of the cliche stuff, and this didn't feel cliche. It felt really nuanced and unusual and complicated and toxic and brilliant, and yeah, just he's great. He's absolutely brilliant in it.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I think this movie is interesting because the parody that came
the Dewey
out,
Cox,
yes, is so on point.
Walk Hard.
that it almost like steals some love from it, and I keep having to remind myself it's okay. You can parody something, and the original you can still love the original for what it is. But man, yeah, I really do enjoy this movie. So yeah.
I mean, growing up in the Ozarks, I remember in high school, whenever Johnny Cash passed away, I think it was 2002, 2003, somewhere around there, the school had to take a moment of silence whenever Johnny Cash died. So it's one of those things. Like it was an event, and he gives an incredible performance. And I almost said Renee Zellweger, but that's not right at all. No, I'm trying to remember who it was.
Reese Witherspoon, right?
Reese Witherspoon. Yeah, she played June Carter, and she gives a really good performance too. So yeah, it's a great movie, and it really shows the darkness that man was fighting. So yeah,
totally.
Good movie. Good pick. It was my first honorable mention.
Number 4 for you, Andrew.
For me, well, I'm going to go with Joker.
Oh, wow. I would have never predicted somebody would have Joker higher than Andrew would. He loves that movie.
I love that movie. Aaron that should let you know. I love all of the movies on my best ever challenge list.
Yeah, he's been in some good ones for sure. All right, on to our number 3s.
Yeah.
I fully expect this to get trumped. This is where I had Gladiator.
Yeah.
I was going to do all the trumping.
So,
Ian, how do you have a list?
Yeah. What's on
I think
the list?
you're breaking another rule of Best Ever Challenge. You can't just trump everything.
No, I will.
Ian, what is your number 3?
Joker. Yeah, because I am one ahead. So
Correct.
it is now. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah,
Joker.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Love it. I would never ever recommend this film to anybody ever at all. Not one. No, I honestly wouldn't, because it is a tough watch, and I think if I personally recommended it, it casts more judgment on me than it does the film. It's like you have an entire library of films that I could have watched. You specifically recommended Joker, but I love it. I kind of ignore it as a Batman story. I don't need the Bruce Wayne being young and whatever nonsense in it, but the story itself and his unhinged performance is great. I love it. The tone of the film I really like. I don't know why. It's a world I like to swim in.
I am here to say that you get to love what you love. Andrew, speak some more about how great this movie is.
Well, this is
It hurts.
This is Joaquin Phoenix's best performance, and I just rewatched
Agreed.
this the other day. I just rewatched this movie the other day. I do disagree, and I say that I would recommend this movie because it's a type of movie that I think is actually important, not from the whole mental health perspective. We can push that aside for what I'm about to say. I think that it's important to show that you don't need to have a hero in a movie.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's something you barely ever see. You can feel pity for Arthur Fleck, but you don't have to empathize with him. Empathy is something that you can relate to. You don't empathize with Arthur Fleck. You feel pity for him and you feel sorry. And yes, he's the bad guy in this, but also the other bad guy is society, who allowed and nurtured this type of individual to come into existence. And if you think about Joker as a Batman character, and you think about how diabolical and villainous and psychotic he is, then this as an origin story would make sense, kind of, except for the fact that the Joker is a brilliant mastermind, and I don't see Arthur Fleck really as a brilliant mastermind.
Not yet. Not where we see
so
him.
Having that kind of tie into the Batman universe is fine. Batman's my favorite DC character, so I'm always going to allow any movie that wants to try and, nuzzle its way into the Batman universe. I'm all for it. But if you take out that element and you just look at Arthur Fleck as an individual as opposed to who he will become, I think that this is a fascinating watch, and I think it's an important watch, and I think that, we need more movies like this because it starts a conversation. Whether or not you like this movie or you hate this movie, you have to admit that this movie started conversations. So,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Great. Well said. Well said, gentlemen. Well said.
Aaron, what do you think about Joker?
Nope. Glad you guys had a great time. Let's move on to Andrew's number 3, right? It's your turn for your number 3.
It's going to get trumped, but I'll go with Signs.
Trump.
Yeah, I will trump.
How, Ian? How?
Left? I am so confused.
I followed the rules.
No, I'm sure you did. I'm 100% sure you did. So let's move on to our number 2s. This is where I have Signs. Still trumped?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Still trumped by Ian.
Back to me. I just really want to take over.
Ian, what do you have at number 2?
Gladiator.
Trump. How do you like it? How do you like it?
No, I'm out. I don't like it.
Andrew, what do you have at number 2? This may be a record for most trumps in a row.
No, you want to hear it because it's gonna happen again. Right
Go
now.
ahead. Yeah.
Number 2 is Her.
Trump. All right.
That's great. Love it.
Well, I think that brings us to our number 1.
Number 1. We completely skipped everybody's number 2.
Yeah,
I don't think that's ever happened where we've skipped
and
everybody's
the last number 3
row.
was that. I think that was 4 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. I get to talk about my number one, which is Her, which Andrew had at number 2. I've talked about it many, many times before. I also have recently thought about this movie quite a bit with another movie that I'm not sure we'll talk about on the show at all, so I will mention it here, but it is an awards contender this year called Swan Song that will be on Apple TV Plus. I just saw it recently, and it reminded me a lot of Her in the way that it envisions how technology is going to interact with us in the future, and just that same kind of sense of maybe not quite to the level of Her, especially considering Her is now like 9 years old.
No, it's not.
And right,
What?
like
It's not that old.
Wasn't it 2012 or was it
You're probably wrong.
don't.
2013 maybe? You can look it up. Anyways, it's been at least a few years.
2013, yeah.
Wow.
So
That's disgusting.
Wow.
So it's, you know, we're already seeing more and more of the ideas in Her, you know, becoming more real with the way our assistants are understanding more, you know, nuanced language and all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, Her is just this incredible movie, not just about how the technology feels authentic, but how the relationship to technology feels authentic. The idea that we have some reckoning to do with our relationship to technology, and how much we do love our phones, and how much we do actually love our phones. Like, you know, like it's like real interesting stuff. So yeah, Her was, you know, prescient from the time it came out, and will continue to be so, I think, as we head into the future. And
Spike Jonze went to the future.
yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I know I love it. I haven't seen it. I remember the trailer coming out, and I knew I'm going to love this film. Just never got around to it. So it's edging up higher on my list to watch.
Nice. All right, Ian.
We didn't talk about Gladiator.
No, it's in.
We're gonna.
Was it just me that had it, or was it who's
my number one?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good. Oh, you
But
me.
But
Good.
now we're talking
So
about
now
your
we're
number
doing
one, which
Your
is
number one now, Ian.
Signs.
We're there.
Yeah.
Signs was
Signs,
Ian's
yes.
number 1, my number 2, and Andrew's
number 3.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Good. Glad someone's keeping track. I think I've even talked about Signs on this show before.
Possibly.
Great. It's brilliant. It's good stuff. Doesn't really rely on its twist at all, which is probably where I wonder if the twist was more guessable, maybe it would have had the Village treatment, possibly, because it feels as arbitrary as that, as you said. But yeah, I love this film, and Joaquin Phoenix's childlike character is a treat. It's so good.
It is interesting. I developed when looking at Old that came out this year, which I know a lot of people hate, and I totally understand.
I like it.
Well, I know actually everybody that was on the show
show.
that week liked it. Was that
it.
you?
Yeah, that was me as well. I was on that show.
Okay, yeah. So the three
Didn't
of us
love it,
actually all enjoyed
liked
it. All right.
Yeah.
But I remember in thinking about that movie, just how much M. Night loves, you know, telling stories almost to children. You know, like, you know, he's almost telling a child's story every time he tells a story. And it's always through the perspective of a child. In this case, it's kind of a grown-up child. You know, but that shot of them on the couch, and you know, it's just like there's something about childlike
with the
wonder.
tinfoil.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
That he really loves. But yeah, I think this movie is spectacular as well.
I think that out of all of Shyamalan's movies, the twist in this one was the most metaphorical / spiritual, whereas all the others were storytelling twists. And I think that this one is just, you know, the symbolism behind the twist itself is what set it apart. It's such a good movie. It's one of the best alien invasion movies ever made. Totally underrated, totally underappreciated. Mel Gibson is stellar in this. So is Joaquin Phoenix. So is Kieran Culkin. I mean, everybody. I mean, who isn't in this movie? You know. It's crazy. Also, Aaron, Kenneth Branagh is not in this, but I think it's Abigail Breslin is the little girl. But Aaron, you hit on something that we kind of have talked about before, and that's the childlike wonder of the way that Shyamalan makes his movies, and you can see that in the performances by the actors in their movies, because they're not natural.
No.
There's something very uncanny valley-ish about the way these people, like, I guess that's kind of how a human, communicates or, verbalizes their feelings. I mean, we're getting close. But
it's wild. It's wild when people act like the more recent Shyamalan movies are like the acting has changed in some way and is now bad. Go back and watch The Sixth Sense. Bruce Willis is doing this same kind of stilted, like that's always been his thing, is just, very deliberate performances. So yeah, that's interesting. It might just work better with Bruce Willis. That could be the case.
We're just used to it from him.
Yeah, but something like that.
Speaking of, Ian, did you ever watch Cosmic Sin, the worst movie ever made?
No, I think you've talked to me about. You definitely talked to me about this on the show. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah. No, I'm still not sure I will.
Aaron, have you seen it yet?
No, it's really hard for me to get excited about watching the worst movie ever made. Yeah.
Especially when I've already seen Chronicles of Riddick.
That's right. All right, on to your number one, Andrew.
Gladiator.
Gladiator. My number 3, Ian's number 2, Andrew's number 1. It's amazing. We did amazing stair steps there.
We did, but I think Ian, what did you trump 14 times this episode? An
I was aiming for 15,
unfathomable amount of trumping. But no, it's Gladiator. Yeah, it's just such a grand scale of a movie. I don't think we see many movies like Gladiator anymore. Where you feel like you're watching a spectacle at the same time you're watching an Oscar, winning Best Picture movie. Because when you think of like the cliche, I guess you could say, like Academy Award Best Picture, they're very intimate, personal stories. Where Gladiator, yes, you're following Maximus around, but the world that he is traveling in and the places he goes, it feels so vast and incredible. And you have to give credit to Hans Zimmer's score, obviously, for being so, grandiose. And the visuals in this movie still hold up. The Colosseum is amazing. And Joaquin Phoenix, since we're talking about him, is one of the best movie villains ever in this movie. You despise Commodus with every fiber of your being. This is really the movie where I took note of Joaquin Phoenix. And I'm like, oh, this guy is good. This guy is going to give stellar performances. If he makes me hate him this much, what else can he do? And if you look at his career, Joaquin Phoenix really hasn't been in that many movies. It's because he's a quality over quantity type of actor. He chooses roles he knows he can destroy and obliterate and make his own. So, yeah, kudos to everybody in this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies ever. Can't recommend it enough.
Nice. Well, there you go. There's our top 5. As far as honorable mentions go,
did we mention Hotel Rwanda?
I was going to say Hotel Rwanda is probably worth mentioning, and To Die For, I think, is worth mentioning as well with Nicole Kidman. One of his first movies, I think. So yeah. Did you guys have any others that you wanted to mention?
Nope, just stuff that you guys already said.
There we go. All right, let's move into our buried treasure. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture you want to make sure people know about? Ian, you're our guest, so you get to go last. Andrew, are you back to your...
Trump.
No.
How did he do it? How did he do it?
No, Ian. No. Andrew, what is your buried treasure?
Well, Aaron, you're right. I'm going all the way back to the list of shame by year. Unfortunately, this is the year that the Hotel Rwanda genocide took place. Nancy Kerrigan's knee had a disagreement with a club. O.J. Simpson goes on a road trip in his Bronco. I turned 8 years old, and a little ditty of a movie came out called The Hudsucker Proxy.
Yes, bring it on.
I know Aaron adores this. I think
do.
you said that this is your favorite Coen Brothers movie, if I'm not mistaken.
It's on my list of shame as well. I still haven't seen it.
What a fun, fascinating watch. This is a very good movie. I really like this. I really like this a lot. Surprisingly, though, I didn't think it felt like a Coen Brothers movie.
Oh, interesting.
If anything, it felt kind of like Tim Burton light. With the way that these sets are, so I guess bombastic, like the offices that the CEOs have are just so incredibly huge, and they just have the little tiny desk, And I looked up the set designer, and they have worked on Tim Burton movies before, so I'm like, oh, maybe it's just that's where I get this idea. But no, Tim Robbins' character is so lovable and goofy, and Jennifer Jason Leigh is giving her best Katharine Hepburn performance ever. Paul Newman, it's just great to see Paul Newman in stuff. As the end of this movie was happening, where I'll just say a character is falling, and then there's an instance with time. I thought it was going to be the dumbest thing I'd ever seen, but I ended up laughing so much whenever Tim Robbins is reading this letter and he keeps getting fail and fall mixed up. I was dying. I was laughing. And also it was a really fun little metaphorical moment in that moment of life and death kind of having a battle with each other, I like that symbolism. And the more that I'm watching like older Coen Brothers movies, like I did Raising Arizona not too long ago, I'm realizing that the Coen Brothers love the metaphor of death personified.
Sure.
Like in Raising Arizona, you have the wandering rider, in this one you have the maintenance man. Obviously, the most famous one of all time is Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh's death in No Country for Old Men, But I'm noticing that more, and it is very fascinating, and it makes me think of all the other movies like Oh Brother Where Art Thou, like the sheriff is death or the devil, John Goodman and Barton Fink, and I'm like, how have I never noticed this before? But this movie is ridiculous in all the best ways it possibly can be.
I agree.
Yeah, so thank you, Aaron, for championing this movie for so many years that we've been doing this podcast, saying you really need to watch this movie. I'm glad I finally did. I had a lot of fun with this. Hula hoops, man. Hula hoops.
Yeah, for kids.
For kids.
No, this is maybe it's just because I watched it so many times, but it also feels like it's so quotable. Like I find myself anytime somebody's mentioning what floor something's on, I go, including the mezzanine.
Oh, including the mezzanine, yeah.
There's just so much fun stuff in this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. That makes me happy. I'm glad you had a good time with the Hudsucker Proxy. What a terrible movie name, but it's so much fun.
It's very hard to remember.
Yeah. All right. I'll go next. I'm going to go with a foreign language film that I watched this week and is now the leader in the clubhouse for me in the foreign language category. This is a Joaquin, not Joaquin, Joaquin Trier movie called The Worst Person in the World. Joaquin is a Norwegian filmmaker, I believe, a Scandinavian filmmaker. And this movie is, if you dig like the heart of like the last scene in La La Land, where it's about, relationships being complex, or maybe, I don't know, 50 Days of Summer kind of deals with this a little bit. This movie is the most authentic version of that I think I've ever seen. Nice. It really is human and authentic. There are, a few relationships that our key character, Julie, is dealing with. By the way, an incredible performance by, and I'm going to mispronounce this and I apologize, but I'm going to say Renate Rensiv, and she is absolutely amazing in this. Beyond the beautiful themes about relationships and humanity and what love is and what making decisions in life is about, this movie is also really creative with some of its production decisions. There are some. There is a decide to get mushrooms and get high scene in this movie that absolutely blew my mind. I was like, I don't know, how a movie like this does this. We're getting to the place where you can pretty much, if you know your way around, Adobe After Effects or whatever, that, people, you can just do whatever you want in movies now with effects and stuff. And there's some really interesting choices here with a lot of that stuff. Anyhow, it's a fascinating watch. It's really good. I always hesitate to do buried treasures like this because I have no idea when or where you will be able to see this movie. And I apologize for that.
You selfish man.
But I wanted to pass it along in case there is a time down the road where you're like, oh, the worst person in the world. Did Aaron talk about that? Like, and maybe that'll ring in your ear a little bit. If I think of it and I find that it's somewhere available, I will let you know. Right now, I'm sure it's just playing in art houses. I'm sure that's the only place you can find this, unless maybe you live in Norway, which is possible. But anyways, it's called The Worst Person in the World. It is, like I said, my leader in the clubhouse for foreign language films this year because I really thought it was spectacular. So there you go. Ian, what is your buried treasure?
I don't know if you guys are going to cover it on the pod or not, but I wanted to talk about Cyrano.
Okay, yeah.
Which was a pleasant surprise. So we watched, me and Aaron watched this the other day, back to back with House of Gucci, which was an evening. And this was the story of Cyrano de Bergerac was not something that I was familiar with at all. And didn't know that there was multiple movies of it. I was just excited to see Peter Dinklage doing basically anything because he's the best. But I really enjoyed it. I do have the big caveat that the story itself is a bit tiresome. It's really hard to root for Roxanne when she's objectively a terrible person. It's frustrating to see the character of Cyrano devote literally the remainder of his years and potentially his entire life to this one person. So I don't like the one person for one person message that it puts across, but the this film is bonkers. Like it is absolutely insane considering the story is just really, really simple and you've seen it before. Cyrano thinks that he's too ugly to be worthy of love, and puts his words into somebody that Roxanne does love. But the songs are really fun. They're not quite memorable. They're more conversational and just continuations of conversations that are already happening. But they're fun to enjoy in the moment. And just Peter Dinklage is just brilliant in this film. He's so good. He's regardless of not buying into his motivations and his life choices, the way he delivers it is. Yeah, it does. It brings a little tear to the eye. It's really heartfelt.
We do
have. Is this a remake of Roxanne, the
Yes.
Steve Martin movie?
Well,
okay,
it's not a remake of that
which is
movie.
it's based on the
same-
Ron Stone or the Rostand. I forget how to pronounce his name, but Rostand.
Yeah, the original story, the Cyrano story. Yeah, I will say it is currently. And things can change, especially when they're this far out. But it is currently on the schedule for us to talk about in January when it has a wide release. That may or may not happen, but in case it does, I'll withhold my comment until then, other than to say, did not realize this was a musical until people started singing. And
we turned to each other and we were like,
oh, it's a musical.
It's a musical.
Fun.
I don't
and
think
also
the Steve Martin one was.
Also to say in that lane, the music is all done by, I believe, no,
The National.
The National. I almost said the Weekend. Nope,
Nope,
not
it's
the
The
Weekend.
Nationals?
Not the Weekend.
The
The
Nationals
National.
do this?
Yeah,
The National,
And
yeah.
they're in it. In the worst scene in the film.
I didn't think it was that terrible. All right, I gotta withhold.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, anyhow, the National definitely did the music for this one. So yeah, just a couple interesting things about that. But that is Cyrano, which will be out wide, I believe, in the middle of January is when it comes out wide.
Nice.
So there you
I
go.
love The National.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have like all of their albums.
Oh, nice.
You will. I'd be shocked if you didn't like or love this film. Then.
Baby,
Yeah.
don't talk about Reese. He's got that really good bassy voice. Yeah.
And for the rest of the podcast, Andrew will serenade us with
Now, go.
the national
Don't.
songs.
I'll do it.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, man. We did it, guys. We did another podcast. We
Nice.
set out to do so and have accomplished all of our dreams and goals. And I'm glad to have taken this journey with the both of you. So very glad. Thanks for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is mostly Andrew, but also Ian. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network.
Mostly me what?
I don't know which one was being insulted, but one of us or both of us was.
Part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out today.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
I feel.
Thanks to Drew for doing the visuals for the video show.
Yeah, buddy.
And thanks to Ian for once again, what is this, like 3 weeks in a row? 2 weeks in a row?
2 weeks
Yeah,
in a row?
maybe it's
Last
just
time
2
you didn't
weeks.
tell me I was on the show. It was, no, it was this one actually. I got the email and I was like, am I... Oh, I didn't take any notes.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Anything you want to let people know about?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Witsend, WHITTSINNED. I have a new podcast starting called Civ Pop. And on that, we review movies. I'm allowed to talk about whatever I want.
That's
It's
right.
just me. I can
Your best
whatever I
ever
want.
challenge is the best performance.
It's exactly right. We
He has
actually do it
something
the
called the
correct way.
Greatest Ever Challenge.
Yeah,
So,
the correctest ever challenge, where we actually judge the movie based on the character performance that we're talking about that week. And when I recommend a movie, I make sure I know that it is available to be watched by anyone listening.
Okay, Cyrano.
Yeah.
Hey, you'll be able to watch it. Just not
You
yet.
can watch Roxanne. It's
Yeah,
fine.
That's right. That's right.
All of that stuff.
All of it. All of it. Thank you for being here, Ian. We're never having you on again. If you want to be a Sif Pop member, which we'd appreciate and love, you can do that at Patreon. Patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with the podcast. You can leave a comment, a rating, or a review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. If you want to email us, you can do that too. That's feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too. So let them know about it and that listening is much easier than defining your future at the age of 8. We'll be back next week with more stuff. Looks like maybe some licorice pizza. And I almost said Wild Wild West. West Side Story. West Side Story and licorice
Yippee-yo,
pizza.
yippee-yay, man.
Nice.
We will see you then. Can you imagine if Spielberg did a remake of Wild Wild West?
Yeah, do it.
I'm so
I would
down.
Love it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you guys for watching the show. Appreciate hanging out with us. Polar Knight says this is like the perfect evolution of beards. So
It's in order.
It's
I love it.
like the evolution of man, where you've got the picture of the
Hunched over,
Cro-Magnon.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Nice.
I think
to
my
do that.
beard's longer. I think Ian's is darker though. So
Yeah, mine
So
kind
mine-
of
Yeah,
inverts
that's
into
the
itself.
evolution right there,
Yeah.
right? Like if we arrange it
Yeah.
this way. So
Yeah.
Anyhow, love you guys. We will catch you next week. I think we're on Saturday again this week, maybe Saturday afternoon. So
Yep.
I'll see you then. Ian, you'll be getting
Bye.
your email